Okay, well first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight, and also to Adisha and the rest of the team for inviting me to come in today and to give you a bit of a talk about ESG, what it means, and actually why it matters as well. And I'd like to start off by really talking about what do we mean by ESG. And I think that some of you are saying that ESG, it depends upon who you are. Well, that's true, but I think we can pick something out. And really, ESG is new as a concept, as an idea. It's developing. And what we're beginning to see is the establishment of a framework. And that's really important. So when we look at companies, we can begin to analyse whether companies are actually really involved in ESG or they're just saying they're involved. And that's becoming really important for investors, for workers, for customers, for all those groups of people. And really what we can say, I think with certainty, which nobody's going to disagree with, is that ESG is a framework for evaluating a company's impact on environment, society, and increasingly its internal governance. As customers, we're beginning to care about what companies do. And I've got a slide at the end where I've got two quotes, one from 50 years ago and one from last month, and you can see how those quotes have changed. Environmental responsibility. And there's three different areas we really want to focus on here. Is one, carbon footprint. How much carbon do companies actually generate? And what can we do about that? And how can companies reduce their impact on global warming? The second area is resource management. We've only got so much resources about, and that includes air, it includes water, it includes the minerals in the ground. Is there going to be anything left for the future generations? And that's so important. And last of course, is waste management. So when we're talking about resource management, a great example is IKEA. So IKEA, currently 50% of the things they produce are coming from sustainable sources. So forests where they can regrow the trees, and they're also increasingly trying to look into ways how they can actually use the materials which people are finished with. So you've got your tables, you're changing your tables. How can they take those and put them back into that cycle? And that, of course, is the idea behind sustainability. How can we consume things today without reducing the ability of future generations to enjoy what we're enjoying today? We generate so much waste, electrical waste, food waste, clothes waste. How can we reduce that and making sure we actually use these things to generate future products and future services? S is for social impact. What we're beginning to care about as consumers and as workers is the way that firms treat people. We've all got choices. We can choose where we're going to work. There's a competition around the world for talented individuals. So the way we treat people in the workplace matters like it's never mattered before. And increasingly we're seeing about diversity and inclusion. Our populations are made up of different faiths, different ethnic backgrounds, people moving around the world. If you want to create products for people, you need to make sure you have people creating those products that reflect the society in which they're going to be sold. And the last bit there is about community engagement, engaging with your community. Starbucks is a great example of this. They've got projects running around here in the UK, they've got dozens of different projects, engaging people on the ground at different levels and in different ways. And of course, it's not just the UK, it's around the world as well. G is for governance. And what do we mean by governance? We mean the way that companies organise themselves internally. And there's three really key parts to this. The first is transparency. Can we understand what firms are doing and the way they run their businesses? And this is really important if you think about things like slavery. Are companies selling products that use slavery? Are they selling products where the companies that supply them are using child labour or treat their workers really badly? We're seeing that become a really important part of firms' reputation management. Then we've got accountability. Are firms accountable to their customers? Should they be accountable to their customers? What happens if they're selling products which are harming their customers? Should they be held accountable for that? Well, those are the kind of questions that we get when we talk about governance. And the last bit here is the way that firms treat their stakeholders. Now, a stakeholder is anybody who is affected by the business activities. That's customers, that's employees, that's the environment, that's other companies that supply them. Are they treated fairly? Are they treated equally? These are becoming some of the big topics of discussion that are involved in ESG. So why should ESG matter to you? Well, there's a number of different reasons why. First of all, in terms of running a business, if you want to attract investors, ESG is becoming extremely important. If you have a poor ESG record, you're going to find it more difficult to attract investment. It enhances your reputation. If you want to sell your products, how are you going to get your customers to come to you and not the company down the road? And lastly, you can ask a question, do we have a responsibility to future generations? I think we probably all say that we do. If you've got children, of course you're going to care the kind of future that they're going to be working in and growing up in. I'm sure we'd all agree we've got a responsibility for that. But here's an interesting thing. If I take a quote from 50 years ago from Milton Friedman, who was a really famous economist, what he said, make as much money as possible while conforming to the basic rules of society. Now, 10 years ago, on a course like this, we would have been teaching you according to that quote. But here's a quote from last month from a company called Patagonia, which is a very large and successful and rapidly growing outdoor clothing company. And listen to what they say. We're in business to save our home planet. Its core values are to build the best products, cause no unnecessary harm, use business to protect nature, and not be bound by convention. We're happy to break business rules. We're in business to save our home planet. What's in it for you as a student? Because you are the future leaders. What you do today and what you take into your role as managers and senior managers and leaders of companies will affect the future of the planet.